Welcome back to Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. So, on with the first 2099 level, starring Hobgoblin. For answer Shiro's laughter from the end of the previous episode, basically Shiro, there's a bunch of enemies, particularly Spider-Man, that are just called the Goblin, like in some other fashion. And this one is one of them. I'm gonna go in a bit more detailed way after the cutscene, but for now you just need to know that this particular enemy was not completely present in the 2099 universe. We just created it in a second.
Either I'm not used to it yet, or I'm sensing one of the fragments closing in on me.
Well, shit.
Nope, I was right. Well, at least I found it.
And yeah, so that's Steve Blum.
Don't fade on me yet.
What are you supposed to be? The demonic Kumquat?
You can call me
The demonic Kumquats.
Goblin.
Yes. Because it's orange.
Newsflash, Hobby. You're not my first goblin.
Yeah, small
But
reference.
this goblin has one thing the others never had.
The fragment.
Yes, and with its power.
By the way, Dweebs, that's the reason why this cutscene have no leap movement. It's because they're structured supposedly like comic book panels, so without actual in movement during the speaking roles. Anyway, one thing that Spider-Man 2099's levels introduce are the free fall sections. Basically, due to how they're structured, sometimes Miguel will just dive right in from skyscrapers, and you will need to boost until the enemy. If you're playing the Sonic games, it's identical to, for example, the X-Dragoon in Sonic Foundation or Generations. Anyway, like I mentioned, in this case, similar to a couple of other enemies, this particular enemy was created specifically for this game. There had been a Goblin version in the 2099 universe, but this specific Hobgoblin instead was created ad hoc. But a thing that I have been report also that applies to the other supervillains they created for the game, the variations I mean, it actually fits with the tone they went. In this case, Hobgoblin has these cybernetic wings that allow him. Also, yeah, the game is a bit glitchy. You will see better later on. There are some still animation in some cutscenes, but thankfully it does not. They're not that intrusive. Like it only happened like 2 times in my run. Anyway, for this case, you just need to pick the bombs, the traditional pumpkin bombs that are traditional from the Goblin, and throw it back at him. Also, Black Cat poster in the background. That's a nice touch.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, like I was mentioning, Jova, yeah, the Hobgoblin in this case was created for the 2099 universe, but it actually fits, and it will be connected in a sense, but the 2099 universe have kind of a mini story arc in between them. They're just connected with each other in some capacity, because apparently Alchemax is after the fragments for their own personal gains, so we just need to see to what extent.
I'm trying to remember, didn't Hobgoblin become a thing in the comics sometime after this game?
I don't remember. I need to check comic. But I remember, Jova, the 2099 universe was, after its initial run, was mostly used for cameo and crossover purposes, like that event where Superior Spider-Man actually crossed over with the 2099.
I'm not making it up, it's totally canon in my alternate universe.
The Pedro Duarte ultimate.
The what? The Pedro what, sorry?
Duarte, that's your last name.
Thank you, Dwips. It's good, that way I won't forget about my last name. Thank you for reminding me.
The Pedro Duarte.
You asked.
I did?
Anyway,
You
now
asked
it's just
your
running-
name.
Anyway, now it just runs away, so what we need to do is to catch up. However, in this case, he's gonna kinda, also Wolverine poster, he's gonna essentially trick the public eye, remember the police force of the 2099 universe, into thinking that Spider-Man for some reason is in cahoots with him, so essentially the public eye will function as the minion in this case, that Spider-Man will have to fight. Now, this also showcases a skill that I purchased in the meantime. It's one of the first that you actually obtain, which is gonna save you a lot of time when fighting enemies. The disarm skill. Essentially, any enemy with a gun, in pretty much all the game, there are only maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, now can be disarmed really easily from a range perspective, just by grabbing him using the circle button. The current Spider-Man will actually throw a web, and by pushing circle, it will actually disarm the enemy and insta-kills it. This is gonna save you a lot of time in crowded fights, especially in these levels of, like in the 2099 universe or the Ultimate one. Especially also because one of the detracting things from the 2099 level is because they tend to drag on quite a bit, especially with the fighting. And but to be honest, the skill that is typical, that is specific to Miguel, is not that useful in combat when you think about it.
Tio, you don't like the ability to just be able to glide super fast at the enemy and pray to God you actually land them the right way to do an ultra super
That's
takedown?
not what happens in this game, unfortunately.
Exactly my point. You'd think they would have included that, but they didn't.
Honestly, Jova, for the intended way they use for this game, you might as well don't have it, because to be frankly, I barely used it. But in all due time, it's gonna be introduced quite a bit. For now, we're just actually dealing with the public eye until we manage to catch up with Hobgoblin. Basically, the level is gonna be a gigantic chain. Yes, Jova?
It was kind of weird that they chose to go with Hobgoblin as opposed to going with one of the already established 2099
That's
villains.
weird, again, Jova, that's weird because of the existing 2010 villains, only one canonical was chosen, the one for the second level. Both the first or this one and the third level are technically original, even though the third one kinda takes some inspiration from our Spider-Man event, but only in due time because it's a bit of a can of worms.
Hey, Spidey, maybe you shouldn't be destroying those. Maybe you should commandeer one of those and use that to catch up with Hobgoblin.
No, it doesn't really need, especially because, again, those are public eye, automatic drones, so it's not a good idea to just, hijack one of them.
Surprised that he doesn't, though, maybe hack into them so that they'll go after Hobgoblin.
Oh, there you go, introduction. Now, I forgot to be specific on this skill. On paper, it looks like, the accelerated vision. Now, you think, oh, cool, I can slow time. No, that's not how it works. What it only does, it's used for this kind of projectiles, the missiles. It slows them a bit and showcase to you a counter, aka how many seconds are left before they actually impact on you. What you're supposed to do is using this skill and get behind another enemy so that the missile will hit it instead by collision detection, essentially.
So,
The problem
essentially...
is that, if I have to be honest, 9 times out of 10 this skill doesn't work properly. In a sense that you're just... I don't really feel the fact that the projectiles actually slow, and the enemies don't slow as well, so you're trying to bumble around while you're potentially getting, ganged on by enemies. So it's more counterproductive than anything.
So essentially, when you get down to it, the accelerated version is essentially just a glorified Spidey sense, only not as fun for some reason, because the Spidey sense was just... See, with Spidey sense, it's just a simple matter of pressing a certain button, and you'll do a certain action. Whereas with here, they kind of overcomplicated it. Like, I get it, Miguel's more tech-based because he doesn't have all the powers that Peter has, and that's fine, but you'd think maybe he would have programmed something to replicate the Spidey sense better in his suit?
Again, Jova, to be honest, the easy way to fix this was just to be a standard slow time power-up of just slowing everything around him.
Unfortunately, they did not do that.
Oh shit.
It's kind of a shame that they didn't do, the Amazing Spider-Man version of Hobgoblin, because then they could have brought back Mark Hamill to voice him like he did in the 90s animated series. Yes, that's right, they got Mark Hamill to voice the Hobgoblin. Almost surprised they didn't get him. I'm almost surprised they didn't get him to do Green Goblin, because Green Goblin is essentially Spider-Man's Joker.
Pretty much.
But I guess Hobgoblin was just as good, and yes, he does the iconic Joker laugh there
Green
too.
Goblin
Yes, Pedro?
Well, the thing about the Green Goblin is that, unlike the Joker, he does have his Norman Osborn alter ego, which is supposed to be more subdued and, you know, supposed to fool people that he's just a perfectly normal scientist. So I don't know if Mark Hamill is the right choice for...
Weirdly enough, of all people to be Hobgoblin, they went with Jason McIndale for the animated series. Not necessarily the worst pick, but... You know, Jason McIndale is the one who does not have powers. Although, I guess to be fair, in that series, it's Hobgoblin that comes first, and then Green Goblin comes second, which actually does work out story-wise.
Anyway, for some minor context, for the sake of having the villain bio, the character of Hobgoblin, I mean the original one, was created by Roger Stern and John Romita Jr., one of my favorite authors and artists, in 1983. So basically, in the
It was
80s.
when Green
The
Goblin
80s
was dead.
Yeah, in the 80s were a particular interesting period of Spider-Man because we introduced a lot of new villains back there, including Venom, for
You're
example.
not like the other goblin I fought.
Yeah, again, see, this was back when Green Goblin was dead, and, well, this was before comic deaths were, you know, comic deaths. So basically, they had to really work their butt off to make villains that could hold a candle to Green Goblin at the time. And a lot of it did pay off.
The original incarnation of the character was actually more similar to the traditional Goblin. He had the hand glider, where he ran the pumpkin bombs.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, he kind of crafted the whole persona because he found one of Norman Osborn's many hidden bases. You know, the funny thing is, like, well, when you get down to it, Dr. Octopus was technically the first out of what people consider the big three Spidey villains, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Venom. And yet, for some reason, he's often second whenever it comes to that. Though, I guess, to be fair, that's just how much an impact Green Goblin ended up leaving. But yeah, basically, the original Hobgoblin,
Yes,
I'm trying to remember his civilian name.
there have been a couple, because...
Oh, there have been a lot.
The first was
That's the one
Roderick Kingsley.
Yeah, that's the one I'm trying to think of. The original, and to this day, the best.
The second, Jason McIndale. Hold on. Yeah, Jason McIndale, whatever he's called.
And then there was Norman Leeds, which led to a whole can of worms with Betty Brant.
Ed Leeds, yeah.
And then there was
Someone made you.
Phil Ulrich.
Phil Ulrich. Basically, here's the deal with Phil Ulrich. Phil Ulrich originally debuted in the MCU 2. Well, the MC2. The Marvel Cinematic Universe 2. What is that? Essentially, that is the one that basically focuses on the next generation of superheroes. Like, you had Spider-Girl, who was Peter Parker and Mary Jane's daughter. You had the kids of the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and all that jazz. And for a good portion of time, it could be considered that that was canon to the to the Marvel Universe. That is until One More Day happened, which actually went out of its way to say that no, that universe will not come to be. So yeah, okay, that universe was still okay on its own, and then Spideyverse happened and killed off the Peter Parker of that universe. Thankfully, Spider-Girl survived, but now she has a more tragic backstory. But hey, she got a baby. She managed to save her baby brother from the Mordos, so that's nice. But anyway, basically, in the Spider-Girl comics, Phil Ulrich was Hobgoblin, a family friend. Yes, this is back when Hobgoblin finally got to be a good guy. So, a lot of fans...
No, Jova, he went all over the place. First he was what Wikipedia calls the heroic Green Goblin. Then he became a villain by being Hobgoblin. Then became the Goblin Knight, which, to be fair, had kind of
Here's the thing. The whole evil Hobgoblin thing, that was when they brought him over to the normal Marvel Universe. Basically, basically Phil Ulrich is the heroic Green Goblin in, in Spider-Girl the comic. So fans really wanted to see him over in the regular universe. So Marvel complied, at the cost of making Phil Ulrich one of the most psychotic and most hated takes on the Hobgoblin.
True Marvel tradition, they completely ruined the character for the sake of shock value and selling more copies.
Didn't help that they had him kill Spider-Woman, Maddie Franklin, at the time. Yeah, Maddie Franklin, who was a really beloved Spider-Woman, basically she got killed off by Phil Ulrich, and of course the fourth Spider-Woman, who at that point was a Spider demon or something.
I-
Which is a
If
shame.
if they try to do something like that nowadays, they would get fucking hanged.
Which is a shame because Maddie Franklin was not only a great character in and of her own, but she was a nice way to actually give J. Jonah Jameson a personality out of hating Spider-Man because, you know, she was also an adopted daughter of J. Jonah Jameson at the time. And it also was getting him to start to actually realize, hey, maybe these heroes might not be bad. I mean, of course, he never figured out Maddie Franklin was Spider-Woman, God forbid, but all the same, though, it was leading up to new avenues. But just like with many things, Marvel couldn't have that,
really
and she
don't
was killed.
understand this mentality, to be honest. The fact that we can't, it's literally this is why you can't have nice things meme. And not funny.
But hey, we got Jessica Drew back, yeah. I mean, that's Spider-Woman. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Jessica Drew, but do we really have to kill Maddie Franklin to bring her back? It's like how we had to get rid of Cassie and Spoiler when they brought back Barbara Gordon in the New 52. Well, sort of. Not entirely. It's really complicated, and I'd rather not go into explaining that.
Yeah. Anyway, we're about to confront to have the final encounter with Hobgoblin.
Ah.
They will actually activate the power of fragment. So far, it had the pretty standard stuff with the pumpkin bombs, and thanks to those particularly nanofiber wings, the ability to fly and resist falling damage of any kind. But so now we'll actually see what the fragment will actually give to him.
Don't take this the wrong way, but the more I get to know you, the less I like you.
So,
That's the Doctor Who. I recognise that after the Doctor Who episode I watched.
Well, it makes sense
for
because
some reason
2099
now-
Spider-Man is a time traveler.
hold on.
Crap one, but still.
So now for some reason this Hobgoblin has now hallucination powers, which creates some weird holographic copies when you just need to tackle. They don't really do anything.
Why, hello there, Chernobog. I was expecting you.
Basically, this translates in gameplay like this. As long as the Hobgoblin is doing this particular phase, he keeps regenerating health, so you need to destroy these gargoyles, as the game calls, as fast as you can, so it will exit the state and will be able to fight it properly. Now, the actual main fight now is a bit different because instead of just hovering over and just throwing random bombs at you, sometimes the Hobgoblin will do different attacks like this carpet bombing attack or a dash attack that will try to stun you and avoid for you to actually attack. And again, you cannot use your standard grab move with the web because thanks to the wings, he tends to repel you and slamming you onto the ground. So it's a bit complicated. But yeah, anyway, to come back to what Jova said, if I had to be honest, yeah, when it comes to Spider-Man villains, Hobgoblin is definitely not one of my particularly favorite one. Mostly in a sense because it's been underutilized and even the alternate versions have not been that great. This one is serviceable for the game, at least for the 2009 universe, so there's that.
And hey, we have Hobgoblin to thank for Demo Goblin being a thing.
Again, Joe, if I have to be honest, Goblin Knight is actually an improvement, just by design only. That flaming sword is actually quite cool.
Yeah, and hey, at least
There's a
they did.
particular cover, there's a cover that I particularly like where he's facing Hercules. Yes, truly, there's Hercules in the Marvel comics.
And hey, Robert Kingsley is still awesome because of.
Well, Disney own Marvel now, so...
Well, that's kind of complicated. Supposedly, in the Marvel universe, both the Norse pantheon and the Greek one coexist, but not too much, because that would be too OP. There was also a particular event called the Chaos Wars, where the Japanese pantheon, well, not Japanese pantheon per se, but basically the Hades equivalent of the Japanese pantheon, Amatsumi Kaboshi, started growing out of power exponentially and threatened to consume the entire universe. That was actually an interesting event, even though ended with a bit of a cop-out for the sake of maintaining the status quo, but whatever.
That tends to happen a lot with Marvel's big events. Like, remember the debut of Galactus?
Yeah, well, that's a classic story that actually works. The fact that the Fantastic Four found a non-lethal way to actually negotiate with this Eldritch Abomination and actually managing to succeed, saving the Earth, and in the process making Silver Surfer actually question his own actions.
Shame that
And,
nowadays.
That's actually so iconic, and again, Galactus was not a fucking cloud, for a starter.
Shame that nowadays, though, it's usually just beat Galactus in the face and he'll retreat.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, Joe, that when you create a being like Galactus, utilizing effectively is a bit hard.
Yeah, he's got the Worf effect on him hard.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite things is how they utilized him in the original Infinity War comic, because due to the scale that that event had, they actually found a way to integrate him fine without actually having him too overpowered or being too weak. It was just perfect for what was happening. Also, yeah, in case you're wondering, this is one of my least favorite boss fight in the entire game because of how long it can get you to that time regenerating power. But don't worry, it's almost over anyway.
Going back to the...
is that, again, the good thing is that when you actually manage to attack Hobgoblin, you can chuck away the elf really easily. Yes, Jova?
Going back to the topic of Hobgoblin, it depends on which Hobgoblin you're talking about. Jason Macendale in the comics was, well, a washout. He started off as a pumpkin green goblin ripoff guy who, well, yeah, that's pretty much the Sigurd story. Didn't have powers, ended up getting killed sooner or later, and then there was the whole Ned Leeds thing. Yeah, apparently as per Ned Leeds, it's established now that Robert Kingsley had these backup plans where basically he can now hypnotize people, random schmucks off the street, to convince themselves that they are him. Basically in a sense where, oh, if something bad happens...
Oh, okay, here we go.
Why don't we go for a ride?
Yeah, well, I'll take you for a ride, sure.
Uh-oh.
No, don't worry, we just mean when we need to do a final, you know, the first person fisticuffs, and we're done.
Lovely.
Whoa, look at me.
But yeah, back to what I was saying. Apparently Robert Kingsley has not quite the Doombot thing, but basically he hypnotizes a lot of people, convinces them that they are him, so that, you know, say something bad happens to Hobgoblin. Yay, it's not Kingsley, who is hands down definitely the best Hobgoblin off of Mirror for at least not running into anything incredibly stupid.
Bioorganic circuitry. Only one corporation.
Gee, I wonder who's responsible behind these.
It could be the one corporation in this town that really does that stuff is the corporation in town that is behind this stuff.
But, well, that just raises the question, what exactly Alchemax may be wanting for the fragment? It's gonna be continued in the second eventual episode of 2099, the second level of 2099, and concluded in the third one. So, for now, the question just lingers. Anyway...
Mystery.
When it comes to this level, again, not one of my favorite, but it's still really tame if you know what you're doing. For the next one, we do the last one of the first batch, the Force War batch, starting the Noir universe with a particular villain I've recreated for this game, but that fits like a glove with the Noir universe, Hammerhead.
Yeah.
So I'll see you for that.
See you there.
See ya.